Hey everybody, welcome back to the studio. I have a confession to make. This is a confession by an OG who sees things changing, and basically it just hits me in my irks. And one of those is the new microphones are fantastic. This is Rhode's Wireless GO II. I'm using the little Insta 360 to attach to my phone and or the Ace 2 Pro action cam, which I use a lot in some of the filmings. But one thing that irks me is when people will hold these and they'll sit and talk in them, and then they'll hold them to you like they're offering you like a little piece of candy. That's just not really my kind of jam. I'm more along the lines of a guy who will put, a microphone and sit there and talk to myself, and then hold it to somebody else while they're talking, just on a pole or something. And it seems like a pretty simple thing to 3D print, in my opinion. Well, I sketched out a few ideas, and then I just came to the drastic realization, oh my God, these are so popular. Thingiverse has got to have dozens of these. And lo and behold, they did. They had lots of them. Let's get on Thingiverse and grab one and 3D print it, just to have something to do on the 4th of July. Today, which it is. And it's very hot outside, and nobody's really feeling it. So, hey, go down the studio and make something. Yeah. Thingiverse. Thingiverse is always changing. It's a magic place for makers and people interested in all sorts of stuff. Look, here's a tester enamel bottle opener. Crazy stuff on here. Crazy stuff on here. What I would like to do is, I guess, I'm going to type in RØDE, R-O-D-E, wireless, W-I-R-E-L-E-S-S. Yes, RØDE Wireless GO II. Let's just see what, okay. Look at all this stuff. What's this for? It's just things. It says charging, but that doesn't make any sense. Oh, good grief. Here's a little desktop holder. Crazy stuff. Now, this is what I'm looking for right over here. But not quite like that. Here's another one. Wireless Interview Go. I think that might be the one I'm looking for right there. What does it look like? No, that is not what I want. I want something better than that. Yes, there's so many. It's basically a stick. That's what I want. Right there, baby. It has a place where you literally slide the jacket clip into. You can see the logo, everything. There's a dent for the button. And then it'll all just sit on top of that. It's pretty large. Yes, I like the way it fits. Yes. Yes, that's what I want. Very similar to that. All right. So, because of this, we're just going to download the file. It gives you a little countdown. In one, there, completed. We're already downloaded. So that has gone into my downloads folder as interview handle holder. We could tip the designer. We will possibly do that if it works out for us. If it doesn't work out for us, I don't tip the designer. So where I've got my images, making sure it's still the same one. It is. We're not going to make ours yellow. We can help it. And I am going to go into the files. I use Orca Slicer. It's a variation of Prusa. And it just works great with my little 3D printer. Use whatever slicer you want. However you guys want to slice your STL files, that's what we get directly off of Thingiverse or a laser file. It's either G-code or STL. STL is technically G-code also. And we're just going to double click on this to see what happens, because it should just open. Now there's a version of this with a tripod mount. I don't need that. I just want a stick. A stick I can stick in someone's face. There it is. So we've just launched it into Orca. It's giving me my Creality panel here. And obviously we're not going to print it this way, but it looks really good. It's pretty big. I like that about it. The first thing we need to do is lay it flat. So what we're going to do inside of Orca here is we have to say lay on face. It's going to say what face? I say this face. Boom. There it is. Now I get a little error warning saying, hey, you're over your print area here. Understandable. Yeah, it's going to be pretty large. So we just select it. We go rotate. We want the blue one. I want the money end closest to me when it's printing here. There. Now let's see. Yes, that's going to be just fine. Might even push it back a little bit further, but I think that should be fine. Maybe right there. So now the real problem is, do I have to use any supports on this? Supports are the little scaffoldings that support overhangs and stuff, because when you're 3D printing, if it gets too far over, you know, a horizontal level, like 90 degrees, well, there's nothing for it to attach to, and so it just squirts it out like a toothpaste tube, for lack of a better word. So you need these little scaffolds to help build things onto it. I can tell by the way they built this one, though, that everything's kind of rounded, and I see that this is really kind of rounded right here. That should be okay. There might be some issues with that. Yes, I moved it again. There we go. So let's check it out. Yeah, wall loops too. The wall loops are going to be all the way around this, but we want it to be pretty heavy. So maybe we'll give the wall loops 3. So that instead of just 2 loops and then it go into its inner activity, there'll be 3 loops, which makes the outside a lot sturdier. And you're going to be throwing this around and holding it and grabbing onto it, probably using it as a a fidget thing when you're bored and waiting for somebody to arrive for your interview. So yes, let's increase the wall loops, and then I'm going to top surface pattern. Here we go. The sparse infill is rectilinear. I like that. We're going to use that. And the infill is 8. That's usually what I like to run. You can make this whole thing solid. I can literally make this thing a solid piece of plastic. You get into a lot of trouble trying to do that, and it would take forever and use up a lot of your filament, PLA or PETG or ABS, whatever. I'm using PLA just because I have a crud ton of it. So that is that. That is what we're doing. And let's go ahead and slice it just to see what happens. I'm not going to use any kind of borders or loops or anything, and I don't think it probably needs that. Let's just slice the plate. That was really fast. Plate is sliced, and now let's go over here off to the side and just scroll. That looks really good. And what I'm looking for is any magic little orange area that just kind of pops up out of nowhere. If they do that, now see, there's enough of a grid there that when it starts like that, there'll be something there for it to attach to. And that looks good. And then it's going to start climbing up the wall. If I get my finger on the right spot. Climbing up the wall. Climbing up that wall. And what I wanted to do is look to make sure I get 3 loops here. Yes, there's 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Hang on just a second. Here we go. Yeah, 1, 2, 3 because we told it to. So that's going to be fairly thick. So all the way to the top. Boink. And then it's going to hopefully finish out. That looks pretty good. I think we're going to save this out, take it down into the studio, and 3D print it. I guess I'll show you guys how to export this real quick. We're done with it. this says, and it gives you a rough estimate, by the way. Look what I'm doing. Yeah, you like that? It gives you a rough estimate of how long this is going to take. It says the prep time is 13 seconds, which is actually longer than that. And then it's 2 hours and 17 minutes. It's a pretty big print, and it's really, really tight. And it's very, very fine because we don't want this chunky looking, rasterized garbage. And so, yeah, I'm good with that. What we need to do is up here, we have a print button. Now, if I was using something like Octoprint, we'll get into that later, I could literally print this downstairs onto my 3D printer from here through its IP address. Wow, it's kind of crazy what you can do today with technologies. I don't do that very often because it's not necessary. I have a much easier time just putting it on a card, sticking it in the 3D printer, and letting it go. Although Octoprint will give you a nice way to see how far your print is going or how long it's taking through a remote console via, say, up here in the office as opposed to downstairs in the studio. But it's not necessary. I like it, but I got no use for it. I make parts, people. I don't make, I don't have a farm that's printing toys all day long for kids to buy. Yeah. So little drop down triangle, you hit it, it says export the G code right underneath print. We'll go ahead and say export the G code. When you say export G code, it just changes this. You really haven't exported the G code yet. So go ahead and select export G code and you'll get your requester up. And desktop images, G code, RØDE interview, go handle PLA, 2 hours and 17 minutes. It literally names it all. It's very small. Exported successfully. It's down here. So we're done. Let's go downstairs and print this puppy. So I just loaded some nice PLA, nice matte black PLA. I'll flip you guys around. We're all ready to go. We've got our little SanDisk card. I've got the time lapse ready to go. We're gonna put this right in here. Old school, right? So what I need to do now is go into print, and they're all there. I've got a lot of things in here, but down here, right there, RØDE interview, go handle. So let's go ahead and just, well, I'm going to go ahead and just set it and confirm. Now, what I'm going to do is tune it. Tuning, right? Because I want the nozzle temperature quite a bit hotter. Maybe even 215. How about 214? Printing speed's fine. Bed temperature always goes to 0 for some reason. I'm going to set it back up to 65. Yeah. And there we go. Once it gets ready, she'll start doing all of her fun printing stuff. Here's a Kindle that I will show you guys a little bit later how to set up and use Octoprint so that you're actually printing from IP address of this to the IP address upstairs, or vice versa rather, and get your 3D printer to work. Yeah. So let's get the time lapse going and see what happens. Yeah, buddy. All right. Let's see if this works out for us here. Oh, yeah, baby. Check that out. That is absolutely perfect. Cool. So, yeah, it might seem silly, but we older folks like the retrograde activity of actually sitting and talking to somebody and then having somebody else talk back, and, you know, in a real microphone type of situation. This feels more comfortable to me because that's just the decades that I came from, instead of holding it and going, hi, this is me talking into my, cookie or wafer. This build actually fits perfectly. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, it is spot on. So yeah, that's a nice little thing to spend the 4th of July doing if you didn't have anything to do better on the 4th of July. So I'll catch you guys later, and we'll be right back.